So reading from Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 2, text 14. Matra sparshas kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkha daha agma payino nityas tam stitikshasva bharata. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, O Skayan of Bharat, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. So here Krishna is beginning to give the instructions to Arjuna. Saying in the proper discharge of duty, one has to learn to tolerate non-permanent appearances and disappearances of happiness and distress. Non-permanent appearance and disappearance means happiness comes. We all want to be happy. When we have realized that, we endeavor, we have to work to get happy. But what happens? That happiness, then it goes away also. It doesn't stay forever. And then distress, we don't work for distress. Nobody wants distress, but it still comes. It still comes, but distress also goes away. So non-permanent appearance and disappearance of happiness and distress. We have to learn to tolerate. Okay, we can understand, learn to tolerate the distress. Okay, because distress really nobody wants, so we have to tolerate it. Why do we have to tolerate happiness? Happiness, we are so happy. So why should we learn to tolerate the happiness? It's just so that we don't get carried away. It's all related to the body. You know, the more we absorb too much of our emotions, well, it doesn't mean that we don't absorb emotions. We are not like robots, but we should try to put things in the proper perspective. You know, if we get too carried away, then when the source of our happiness goes, then we will be totally bewildered. We won't be able to accept the loss of that happiness because it's going to go. It is temporary. It is for some time. So yes, we should be happy, put our emotions, yes, but also understand, okay, it's a temporary situation and, you know, it might go away at any time. According to Vedic injunction, one has to take his bath early in the morning, even during the month of Magh, January, February. It is very cold at that time. But in spite of that, a man who abides by the religious principles does not hesitate to take his bath. Okay, so this is before the hot water coming every day in the house. Now we have hot water. And yet, of course, it's still very cold to wake up so early and bathe. But anyway, so now we have the heating or hot water in the house, so it's still okay. We don't have to go dip in the river. Similarly, a woman does not hesitate to cook in the kitchen in the months of May and June, the hottest part of the summer season. So one has to execute his duty in spite of climatic conveniences. Similarly, to fight is the religious principle of the Kshatriyas. And although one has to fight with some friend or relative, one should not deviate from his prescribed duty. So it was Arjuna's duty as a Kshatriya. He has to fight because he's a Kshatriya. That's a religious principle. That's the duty of a Kshatriya, that he has to fight. Although that person he has to fight with is a friend or he's a loved one, but what to do? You know, he has to protect, so he is in that position. So one has to follow the prescribed rules and regulations of religious principles in order to rise up to the platform of knowledge. Because by knowledge and devotion, only can one liberate himself from the clutches of Maya illusion. So what does it mean then? One has to follow the prescribed rules and regulations of religious principles in order to rise up to the platform of knowledge, because by knowledge and devotion only can one liberate himself from the clutches of Maya. So we don't like to chant the rounds. We don't like to wake up early, chant rounds, hear from the scriptures, Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, but we should do it. We should still do it. Why? Because by doing it, we will get Gyan and Vairagya. We will get the true transcendental knowledge. And with this transcendental knowledge, what will happen? We will get devotion. And then what will happen? We don't need to be here in the material world anymore. We are liberated. We can be situated in the truth. So no matter how difficult it is to follow the duties of hearing and chanting, we should still do it. We should still do it, keeping the higher purpose in mind. And also, in this verse, Krishna is saying, tolerate. So how do we tolerate? There are so many circumstances which come in our life, which we really don't want. We don't want these circumstances to come. But Krishna is saying, just tolerate it. It's due to sense perception. And then what does it mean? It means we depend on Krishna. And then what does that mean? It means we accept the arrangement. Whatever situation it is, this is Krishna's arrangement for me, because he knows what's the best for me. So let me just accept this situation as it is, as Krishna's mercy on me. And then one verse which is connected to this tolerance is Tatenu Kampam Susamikshamano. It's in the Bhagavatam, 10th Canto. I think it's chapter 41 in the Brahma Vimohan Lila. After Lord Brahma realizes that he made a mistake, he says that any person who tolerates all the difficulties that they're going through, he tolerates all the difficulties, thinking, oh, whatever it is, it's due to my past karma, and at the same time continues to worship you, being grateful to you, then to him, liberation becomes his rightful claim. That's Lord Brahma says that. So that's how a devotee looks at reversals. Happiness, all of us welcome, but distress is calm, and they seem to stay longer than the happiness. Distress somehow seems to be coming faster and longer. Then how does a devotee look at the distress? Oh, my dear Lord, I would have suffered more, but you are kind to me, you're taking away my suffering. And a devotee also thinks that, okay, this is good for me. This reversal is good for me, for my purification, so my attachment to this material world can lessen, and so that my attachment to the Supreme Lord can increase. And when happiness comes, a devotee thinks, I don't deserve this. My Lord is so kind, he's giving me this happiness. And in this way, we tolerate both happiness and distress. And then can transcend this material world. Because happiness and distress keep coming. And then our mind can make us crazy in that, But we just learn to tolerate it, giving all the credit to Krishna. The two different names of address given to Arjuna are also significant. To address him as Kaunteya signifies his great blood relations from his mother's side. And to address him as Bharat signifies his greatness from his father's side. So here Arjuna is referred to as Kaunteya. Here, Kaunteya, Matra Sparshas to Kaunteya means, O son of Kunti, and Tam Stitikshasva Bharata, O scion of Bharat, means you're coming from the dynasty of Bharat. So you are such a great family lineage, From both sides, he's supposed to have a great heritage. A great heritage becomes responsibility in the matter of proper discharge of duties. Therefore, he cannot avoid fighting. So Krishna is calling him based on his family lineage, and saying, don't go against your nature, don't go against your duty, your principles. Do what is needed to be done. Is that okay? So we also should try our best, follow the prescribed rules and regulations of devotional service, no matter how difficult it is. Oh, our mind is not mind is taking us here and there. No, but I need to chant my rounds. Oh, but I know I need to hear, I need to read. And then with that, we'll get the knowledge, the true transcendental knowledge. With that, we will get devotion. And with that, we can be liberated from this material world, from this Maya. So we'll stop here for today. Thank you so much for joining in. Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.